quick video with two halves. The first half is going to be about how the carnivore folks seem to be very damaged people. Either they're outright loony, as in the case of Sverige, that guy from Latvia, or they do have a lot of emotional trauma with people like Elise Parker or things like that, or Frank Tufano. Frank Tufano did a wonderful video showing the emotional damage and how somebody can hide into their study with confirmation bias. He obviously has a great deal of confirmation bias regarding the things that he sees. He went into the hunter-gatherer, researching hunter-gatherers, blah, 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 blah. But like me, I've done the same thing, but not necessarily for diet only, although I did do that as well. I embraced paleo at one time myself. However, you have to weigh it against modern medical evidence and things like that, which was not done by Frank, and when it is, he has severe confirmation bias, meaning he sees what he wants to see and cherry picks information, very much so. A lot of people, a lot of vegans do that too, but what I would like to say is with carnivores, it seems 100% of carnivores have severe confirmation bias and seem to be very emotionally damaged people. It doesn't seem like meat can heal emotional wounds. Now, that being said, let's go a little further. With vegans, okay, the problem with vegans, ethical vegetarianism has been a very, not a very straightforward word for many years. I myself would not even be considered a vegetarian because I take some supplements that come in gelatin capsules of porcine and bovine origin. So some people wouldn't even consider me a vegetarian. I, however, embrace dietary veganism, meaning that my diet is strictly plant-based, okay? So the other thing is I also adhere to some other aspects of a vegan lifestyle. I'll buy second-hand leather instead of first-hand leather, in the fact that I don't want to support the leather industry and still want to wear the leather. So my point is I'm going to go over the types of vegetarian. So I'm going to start with the types of vegetarians that aren't vegetarians. The first one would be flexitarians. Flexitarians are people that eat primarily plants. It's a severely plant-based diet, but it is not 100% plant-based. They might have a little bit of meat, a little bit of fish, a little bit of poultry, etc. Okay, now also included in flexitarians would be pescatarians. Pescatarians are people that omit all animal products besides dairy, eggs, and fish. Then we get into the vegetarian territory. Okay, so let's talk about lacto-ovo-vegetarianism. Lacto-ovo-vegetarianism is where you eat milk, eggs, and other dairy and a plant-based diet, but exclude all meat products, meaning poultry, fish, and beef, or meat and pork, lamb, whatever. And then you get into lacto-vegetarianism, which means you eat dairy but not eggs or other animal products. Then you get into the area of veganism. Okay, now veganism has a couple different branches, but the first one is basic veganism, where you're simply omitting animal products. No honey, no dairy, no eggs, what have you. Then you get into, there's a subgrouping like fruitarians, where you eat fruit, the seeds in fruit, and beans, legumes, that type of thing. Some people confuse fruitarianism with being a frugivore. It's not the same thing. Unfortunately, a lot of people on YouTube have promoted fruitarianism as being a frugivore, where you get the crazy crap like a zillion bananas a day and stuff like that. That is not an accurate depiction of a fruitarian diet. There's also fruitarianism. Now, fruitarianism is technically the same thing as fruitarianism, except they put fruitarian in there to say that they're eating cereal grains like oats and things of that nature. Then that's about all of that. Now, why did I want to do that? Well, the reason why is because a lot of vegans are very judgmental of people that eat any meat. And the problem with this is it makes it very hard to reach out to people and explain the ethical stance of veganism, because a lot of people don't like to hear how horrible they are. And also a lot of vegans forget that at one time they too consumed meat and dairy and fish and what have you. I myself transitioned to being a full vegan, as I started out actually on the Atkins diet, which is a very meat-heavy diet, then into the paleo diet, and then into a pescatarian form of the paleo diet. And then I went into a lacto-ova vegetarian thing after I read Charles Darwin's book, The Expression of Emotions in Humans and Animals. Then I cut the dairy and the eggs. Well, first I cut the eggs out because I found out what they do to baby chicks, how they chip the chicks. So then what I did is well, first I switched to cage-free eggs, blah, 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 found out that was baloney, and then I cut eggs out. Then what I did is I cut dairy out after I found out, a little bit more about the dairy industry. So it was a slow transition for me, though I've been a vegan now for, I would say, over 8 years, okay? And yeah, I went back and forth here and there, okay, in the beginning. And that's the thing, is a lot of people don't have any tolerance for these type of people. But the thing is, if you're really being honest with yourselves as vegans, you will see that being judgmental of people that aren't necessarily full-blown vegans is damaging to the ethical vegetarian movement. Veganism is one branch of ethical vegetarianism. It's the best branch, but it's still only one branch. And if you want to grow it, you have to be understanding of other people's shortcomings in understanding the ethical basis of veganism. And you have to be able to explain that in a way that they can empathize with. And people don't empathize with being told how horrible they are 9 times out of 10.